On today's episode of the Spiritual Badass Podcast, we have Brandi Rahim, and we are talking about bridging the gap between mental health and spirituality. I am Erin, intuitive medium, Akashic, and spiritual mentor, and let's get going. Okay, so on today's episode of the Spiritual Badass Podcast, we have Brandi Rahim, and she is a licensed social worker, technically in the field of certifications and amazing things that we've done, and she is a spiritual therapist. So Brandi, why don't you tell us a little bit, how did your spiritual awakening begin? Like, what really sparked you to do what you're doing? And just love to hear your story.
Yeah. So where do I start? I started doing therapy right around the time that the pandemic started. So I've always worked in mental health since 2012 when I graduated. I always worked in these systems. So I worked in the foster care system. I worked for mental health agencies. I worked with people living with HIV and AIDS. And in every job I had, like I realized that like people were struggling mentally. And so as I went further into my career, I went back and got my master's. I wanted to do more clinical work because, again, I wanted to dig deeper into these systems and these issues that people were having. And I realized that a lot of the issues people were having was because they were struggling mentally. And usually the mental illness was sparked by some trauma, some event that they experienced that caused the domino effect. Their mental health, they were losing their custody of their children, or they weren't able to keep a job or keep their housing and things like that. And so I got into maternal child health, and from there I start asking why. And I think that's what sparked my awakening. Like, I just wanted to know why. Why are babies dying? Why are moms dying having their babies? How did the hospital become a thing? Like, when was the first hospital? Who was the first doctor? Who deemed it a doctor? Why did they want to do that? I just started going down a rabbit hole, and I started digging deeper into myself. Where did I come from? How did I get here? Is God a thing? And if God is a thing, who gave birth to God? Like, who was Adam and Eve's parent? Like, I was just, again, asking why. I wanted stuff to make sense. If God is a man, then what vagina did he come out of? Because God can't have kids, right? Like, so I just was like going nuts. Like, what? I need to know why. And I think that kind of sparked my awakening. So I just kind of like everything that I had ever been taught or learned, I kind of just was like, I'm doing away with that. Anything that I was told, I'm not believing in until somebody can prove it to me and it makes sense. And I ended up getting pregnant. I was pregnant with my last baby, and just getting into like holistic ways of giving birth, because again, the healthcare system was failing Black women miserably. And I was like, I don't want to be another one. I don't want to be the next. And from there, after having my child, two of my best friends lost their babies on the same day. And that was it for me. I was like, I'm done with the hospital. I'm done with the medical system. What is going on? I became a certified doula at that time and start helping women in that capacity. And mental health still was coming up, postpartum depression or postpartum anxiety or, bipolar, again, all these things. And I'm like, all this stuff is so connected. Like, again, am I here to like solve a problem? Am I here to, help in these systems? Is that why I was put in these systems? Because I was supposed to figure out the issue and then fight for change. And so that is really how I went on my awakening. And then from there, I got into herbs. I got into Reiki. I got into how mental health and spirituality connect. I started doing shadow work. I woke up and realized that I was in an unhealthy marriage. So, I mean, literally that thing, wherever I started, that just sparked a whole bunch of stuff. And then here we are today. Here we are today.
That's really amazing, and I just really like that you tried to do something about it, or you started to help yourself so that you knew you needed to help others with with the thing. One thing that you said to me or said was the postpartum depression. I had no fucking idea that's what I had. I like I, it's such a hard thing to describe. I've had depression my whole life, anxiety, panic my whole since I was 2 years old, 3 years old.
Yeah.
That how I felt after both of my children. With my daughter, I had no idea. She was my first, and it was about, I hadn't slept in since I'd had her in 6+ weeks. You go back to work, you work full time, you never sleep. My kids were not sleepers. They slept maybe 2 hours at a time, maybe if I was lucky. My husband worked early in the morning, so he did not get up with our kids. And that level of exhaustion after I went back to work and that postpartum depression, I was like, I couldn't wait to get rid of my daughter. I couldn't wait to go to work and to hand her off to the babysitter. I was like, something's wrong. Like that. I shouldn't be excited to go back to work. I really didn't like my job that much. And I'm
Yeah.
like, why am I so excited to leave? You know what I mean? Like,
A break.
and
Because
I
you needed.
didn't even know that's what it was
Yeah.
until, I was whatever, like she was like a year old before I figured out what it was. So at least
Mhm.
with my son, I had somewhat of an idea, but it's
Mhm.
still like the doctors didn't talk to me about it at all. There was
No.
no, hey, pay attention to this. If you feel this, let's talk about it. There was nothing. And I went to gynecologist who should know,
Yeah.
I didn't just go to my family doctor. Like,
Yeah.
and they don't prepare. I don't know anybody that gets prepared. You're a new person. Like, I remember taking my daughter home and I was like, they fucking are literally just letting us leave with the child.
Literally. Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
they walk your ass out the door after 2 days, 3 or 4 days with my son. And
Yeah.
I was like, holy
They
fuck.
roll you to that curb so damn fast in that wheelchair, like, damn, chill. But
It's like,
literally, they need that bed. There's somebody else that need. I mean, it literally is like
it's like a
a
factory.
warehouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's get in, get out. And again, I think that starts the panic or the depression because you're not even getting enough time to adjust to what just happened.
Well, and you're
That
in
is a
pain, you're
life. Yeah.
tired. Like,
Yes. Your
luckily, my
vagina.
daughter came fast, so I didn't have a long labor, but,
Yeah.
because I had really bad blood pressure, like preeclampsia issues, I had to
Mhm.
stay in a whole 'nother wing without a bathroom. I had to get up, walk down a hallway to go to the bathroom. They had
Yeah.
me on a potassium drip, which makes you pee, so I had to walk through hallways of people who were sitting outside rooms, bleeding like nobody's business, nobody's helping me. Like,
Yeah.
that was my first night after I had my daughter, and then the
Yeah.
second night I got to go to a different room, but I went home probably not sleeping for almost 3 days. Like,
Yeah.
I knew I
It's
was
true.
being induced, so I didn't sleep the night before, and then you get home and you're like, "What the" I think I got home at 7. Maybe it was like 5 PM, and I had to write my final paper for my bachelor's degree. The
Oh,
teacher had
wow.
given me an extension, and I was like, "Fuck, this fucking paper is doing like 5 hours," and I was like she was crying, I'm like, "Oh my god, what am I supposed to like, what do I do?" And you're just like, "Holy fuck," and yeah, you're right, like, as soon as you get home, it just starts, and you're like, "Fuck, I
Yeah.
cannot
You
fucking
know.
believe they just let me leave with this human
Yeah.
being."
Yeah, I remember having my first, like, I was 19 when I had my first, and I remember, like, looking at him, and I was like, "So I'm just taking this thing home with me? Like, okay." And then I remember, like, going to sleep and waking up and being like, "Oh, no, this is real, like, he's still here," right? Like, he was in the basket, I'm like, "Oh, shit, no, this really happened, like, this wasn't a dream." But, yeah, there's no, like. And I took like childbirth classes and parenting classes again because I'm like, I'm 19, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. But still, nothing really prepares you for that. And then you're like, I think that is the start of my anxiety because I was like, I have to keep this thing alive. Every decision that I make and everything that I do going this from this point on is going to affect whether this being lives or dies. The amount of responsibility. And
Well,
I'm
the
going,
sleeping, I was so paranoid that they
I'm
weren't good
scared to go to
sleepers
sleep.
anyway, but I was like, "Oh my god, is she breathing?"
I
Like,
used to shake
both
his
of the kids slept
crib.
in a car seat for the first 6 months because they would not sleep in anything else. They
Yep.
wouldn't sleep or unless I
Mhm.
was holding them or in the car seat because they wanted the tightness.
They want the tightness. Yeah. So again, everything that the hospital tells you is opposite of what we naturally want to do. Why would we have this baby in this tight, warm, wet womb, and then they come out into this dry, lit world, and then we're like, well, leave them alone by themselves. That's why babies do the startle reflex, because they need to be swaddled. So
Yeah.
again, when I was working in maternal health, I'm like, this stuff doesn't seem natural. Why are we laying on our back to have a baby? Like every other animal squats, is on all fours, is on their side with their leg. Like, why are we on our back? Like things just did
Yeah, the
not.
table should like be at a decline. You know what I mean? Like they should tip when you're ready to like go to town. Like it should tip a little. Like
Let gravity work. Why are my legs up and stir? Like literally, again, I was just like, why? Like, why? Like, I
that's
want to
what
know
you
why.
should invent. You should invent like an inversion birth table. You'd be a fucking
I,
millionaire.
yeah, it just blows my mind. And I just was like, this is why people are depressed. This is why people are anxious, because we're going against our soul. We're going against our natural innate urges. And the world is telling us something different. And so we literally live in a world of cognitive dissonance. What we know and what we feel are conflicting, and we're sick. We're
Or if
sick.
you go with what you feel, then you feel like you're berated because you're not doing what you're supposed to be. I remember putting Bella in her that stupid fucking triangle thing to make sure she didn't roll over. And I
Mhm.
go in there, she's fucking gone. I was like, where the fuck did she go? She's a fucking 2 day old. She had waddled, like wiggled herself to the like edge of the crib. And you can't have bumpers and you can't have blankets and you can't have. And I was like, holy fuck, I can't, like the panic of that. I was like, how can
Yeah,
she move like that at that young of an age? Like
yeah,
it's just constant
it is.
panic and worry, like
It's constant panic, or that's what being a parent is. Constant
yeah,
panic and worry. Like you
everything
just
you're told to
never.
do versus what you feel you should be doing versus
Yeah,
like, am I gonna cause them harm? Like there's just it's like everything, especially with your kids. You're like, did my
yeah,
daughter today? She's like, I just got sent home from school. I'm like, fuck, you
yeah.
know, and it's just like you try to prepare them, but she's at that age where she's got to learn some life lessons, and but it's
Yeah.
there's so much of that, So how how have you used then your spiritual self to, are you really helping moms now, or are you kind of doing a combination, or what have you really shifted into kind of, with your spiritual work and what you do? Like, how have you kind of shifted your work?
So when the pandemic hit, I kind of went on this like spiritual awakening. Like I woke up one day and was like, I'm different. I don't know. Something's going on. I've always been like a vivid dreamer. Like I would always dream about stuff before it happened, or I would like really just remember every single detail of my dream. And again, I thought that everybody was that way. And so I just would know like when people were pregnant, or like know what the sex was just by looking at them. And I just was like, when I became a doula, I was like, well, I can use that stuff to help my clients, right? And so as I started to take on doula clients, I would just intuitively know stuff about them, or just, you know, could look at them and be like, well, you need more water. Like, you're dehydrated. Maybe your feet should be up. I see that your ankles are swollen. Just things like that. And so I was learning that my gift was that like I need to follow my intuition, like that intuitively I do know what's going on, and I don't need to be told. And so I wanted to help other women feel that connection to themselves, to their womb, to their child. And so I just use mindfulness, you know, do meditations for your womb, do meditations while you're pregnant, learn to pay attention to the time of the day your baby kicks, right? Like that's probably going to be the pattern when they come out, when they're going to be awake. I know that I used to always
Yeah.
get woken up at like 3, 4 a.m. when I was pregnant, and I would go pee or go get something to eat. Naturally, when my babies came, they were up around 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. So again, just learning how to pay attention to you, the things that I was learning and going through, I just wanted to help other women do that for themselves. And so I realized that that was my gift. Like I do things and I go through things because it's for me to help other people. And so with therapy, the same way, if I get a channeled message, during the therapy session, I just tell them. A lot of my clients I'm noticing are coming to me and they're wondering about their gifts. They're like, oh, I have dreams, or I'm seeing angel numbers. And so for me, I'm just doing the walk with them. I'm just helping them to understand themselves. If they're wanting to look at their birth chart, if they're wanting to, dissect some traumatic event. I'm trained in EMDR, so that is really good for helping people desensitize and reprocess their trauma. So a lot of the things that I'm doing spiritually is just really helping them grow spiritually, just helping them connect to their self, connect to their intuition, learning ways to heal their trauma through body movement, like I said, through Reiki, changing their diet, just all of those things is really what I'm incorporating. So I'm a licensed therapist, but I put a spiritual spin on it. I'm a doula, but I put my spiritual spin on it. So everything that I do, I'm learning to just move in spirit and follow my intuition.
And I think, a big part of it, even if somebody doesn't want to become an intuitive medium and charge people for
Mhm.
services, like, I understand my body. I understood when I was pregnant. I knew exactly where my son implanted, and they're like, "No, we can't find it." I'm like, "No, he's right, literally right down here." She's like, there's no way you could know that." I said, "He's 100% right there. I 100% know it." And she's like, she looked at me, and I didn't even know I had my gifts then, but I knew my body because I have a
Yes.
lot of allergies. I have a lot of stuff in my body that you can never explain. Like, I went
Yep.
6 years with having gallbladder attacks because they're like, "Well, you can pay cash to have it taken out, but it's not bad enough for insurance to take it out." So I suffered for weeks at a time. I don't know how many times a year, 5, 6 times, pure illness, both ends, until the gallbladder attack calmed down. And I would be like, "No, I can't drink or eat when I have it." Or when I was pregnant, I couldn't eat. I would throw up 24/7. She's like, "You've lost 30 pounds." I said, "No shit. I can't eat."
I can't keep anything down. Yeah.
I said, "I don't know what you don't understand about that. We've talked about this at every fucking appointment."
Yeah.
And so you learn to understand your body, and you learn to, so even if you don't want to be an intuitive medium, or I
Yeah.
call myself intuitive medium. I don't love the word psychic, but
Yeah.
learning to understand your body and say something if it doesn't feel right, especially to a
Right.
doctor. If they're an arrogant
Yeah.
motherfucker, find another one. You
Yeah.
do
And
not
that's
have
what
to
I
stay
tell
with them.
people. Yeah. I tell people that I want you to feel empowered. When I started my business, it was called Empowered Mamas of Cincinnati because I wanted to help women feel empowered to speak up, to ask questions, to listen and know their body. Everybody is intuitive. Like what I do, anybody can do. I'm not, we say like, oh, we're gifted or we're chosen, which is true, but we all are spiritual beings
Yeah.
having a human
We're
experience.
all
So
gifted, whether we choose to use it or not is our choice.
exactly, because like I said, I've always been this way. I didn't know what it was. I thought, oh, I'm just anxious. Or, even when I would feel people's emotions and things like that, I was just like, maybe I'm just crazy. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
we all have the it. We all have a gift. And so for me, I'm just helping you to pay attention to it. I'm just helping you to tune in. The
Yep.
channel's there, the TV's there. I'm helping you turn on the right channel so that you can understand, oh, that's what that is. And so a lot of times people are coming to me thinking something's wrong with them, and I'm just here to show them really what it is. And
Yep.
so that is what I love about having the mental health background because I understand the science, right? What the book says. But then spiritually, I see that from a different light. You know what I mean? And so I like to combine the two because it helps people feel like they're normal because they are. And it
Yep.
lets people know that you're okay. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not broke or defective. You have had these series of events that have changed maybe some things in your brain or have that clicked on these gifts. And so you just need to know how to navigate life being who you are. And so that is really what I love about incorporating the spiritual piece. I'm just showing them.
Yep.
I'm just a guide. It's like, look at you. Okay, your chart says this, so this is why you show up this way, or because this happened in your childhood, you have this attachment. And this is why you show up in relationships this way. So that's really, what it is. That's really what it is for me. And I'm noticing that more people that are coming to me are wanting that. They're wanting that spiritual piece. They're asking the questions: Who am I? Why am I this way? This happened to me. And even when people are having like chronic illnesses, lupus or autoimmune disorders and things like that. Again, I feel like a lot of stuff like that happens because of trauma too.
Well,
There
you
are
store it in your body, and when it's stored in your body and you're not getting rid of it, it manifests as
as
stomach aches,
disease.
as IBS, as chronic
Exactly.
fatigue, as, autoimmune imbalances. There's a million reasons
Yep.
why your body stores shit. Because when you're
Yep.
not processing and purging it and figuring out what to do with it, finding a healthy way for you to release or let go of what you've been through, like, your body is like a toxic waste dump, and It's just for me, not having anxiety and panic attacks daily, not having the what ifs and the constant mind fuckery, it's so freeing and you're just like, "What do I do with all this free time?"
Yeah, when you start to feel it's so funny, like, when you start to feel better, you start to think something's wrong. Like, I had
Yeah,
a client come the other day and was like, "Is it bad that I feel good? Like, I was laughing and smiling today?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's perfectly fine." But again, when you're so used to chaos and when you're so used to trauma and when you're so used to things going wrong, she was like, "Am I just, like, being oblivious to it? Am I just being naive? Am I just, like, numbing myself and turning it off?" I said, "Or could it just be that that you really are just happy today and that today's a good day?" Like, bask in that. Don't look for the next shoe to fall, but that is literally what happens when you're so used to that. You start to be like, well, what do I do with all this free time? I'm not overthinking,
yeah.
And so, like I told her, now your creative juices can flow. Now you can find what you really like to do. Now you can discover who you are. Now you can reparent your inner child. So it frees up so much space for you to really live a life, a fulfilling life, a
Find your
life
purpose,
that
because
you
when
enjoy.
you have mental freedom, you actually want to find what your purpose is. You're not just being the mom bot, taking care of everybody else, going to work, fucking kind of hating your life and all of the stuff in between. You finally get to be like, well, I love to paint, or I want to sing, or I
Yeah,
want to learn yoga, or whatever the fuck it is you want to do.
yeah,
Like, you have
hmm,
time because you're not up all night panicking. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And you're not up all day panicking and you're not fucking overthinking and planning every minute of your day, and you're just like, "Shouldn't I be
yeah,
doing" now I'm kinda like, "Fuck, I feel like I should be doing something." Even though I'm busy with, like, work and kids, my
yep,
mind isn't 24/7 busy, which is
yep,
fucking exhausting, you know? If I'm
mhm,
just waiting for the next panic attack or waiting for the next anxiety attack or whatever the fuck it was, now
mhm,
I know if my anxiety kicks up, it's somebody else. Now I know it's a client, somebody's booking a session, somebody's asking me a question. I know it's them.
yeah,
So it's that awareness, that energy awareness, and it's almost like you get to hand them back, your clients back, like, freedom, and they've probably never had freedom. I was 39 before I figured all this stuff out. So I went
yeah,
39 years without any relief,
same.
and, so one thing I, like, notice with a lot of people that I work with is I am not masking any mental health things, but I think a lot of people's mental health things are exacerbated by their spiritual awakening because they're hearing a lot of things, they're
Yeah,
sensing a lot of things, their dreams get super fucking even weirder, or they're having more premonitions than they did before. They're reading people's energy more than they did before, which can be really overwhelming.
yeah.
Have you noticed that as well?
Yes, yes, and even in my own journey, like, there was a time that I was like, "Maybe I should go to the hospital." Like, I maybe I've gone too far with this, you know what I mean? Like, maybe I've psyched myself up to thinking that I'm just spiritually tapped in, and I am not, And so I'm starting to see where people think that they're experiencing psychosis or they're feeling like, "Okay, I'm hallucinating, I'm having delusions." I work at a high school part-time, and one of my kids was like, "I'm starting to see colors, like grids, colorful grids." And I just think that, like, I need to go to the hospital, blah, blah, blah. And I was so excited because I'm like, yes, she's seeing it. Like, yeah, like I'm all like stoked about it. And it's like, I'm freaking the fuck out. Like, and I was like, you're fine. You're fine.
Are you doing acid? If not, then it's your
That's
spiritual
what I
awakening.
said. That's what I said. I said, "Did you take anything? Like, are you smoking weed?" Because a lot of my teens are like, we're smoking weed, we're vaping, and she was like, "No, I don't take anything. I'm scared of everything, right?" Because her parent is also like experiencing some mental health stuff and is on medication. So her mother has now scared her with like, "Me and your dad have this, so you're gonna have it." So she's already thinking I'm mentally ill because my parents are. So when she started to see the colors, of course, she's freaking out because she's like, "Okay, this is it. This is what they're talking about. I'm turning crazy." And I'm like, no, you're not. You're a star seed. Like, I'm so happy. And so I'm
Just say, just
explaining
start
to
drawing what you see, because it's gonna be light language and it's gonna be
yeah,
awesome.
like I'm super stoked about it. But I do notice that a lot of people, again, because you don't know what it is. And this is where I come in. I'm here to help you see that this is what this is. You're not crazy. But I know for me, there were times where I was like, having these visions in my dreams where they were showing me stuff from my past. And like one time I had did like a past life regression, like an Akashic record meditation. And so then that night I had dreams and it was just showing me more things from my past lives. And I woke up like, like I did one of those where you like are startled out of your sleep. And I was like, what the fuck was that? Like, so then I was scared to go back to sleep. I was like, I stayed up all night. I was just rocking back and forth. And then I was like, well, what if I start seeing like a shadow person? And then I'm just like, oh my God, Brandi, what did you unlock? What did you open? Like, I shouldn't have did that, and then when I start having downloads, I'm like, is that my voice? Is that my ancestors? Is that me making this up because I'm cuckoo? Like, so again, I think that it does happen. And I think when you elevate spiritually, it just makes your what you think are your mental health symptoms worse. So again, some people say like a lot of people think that they have social anxiety. That is what I'm seeing a lot of. People are like, I have social anxiety because whenever I go out in a crowd, I feel anxious. Whenever
Well,
I'm in
they're
the group,
taking on however many fucking people's energy. If it's at a
and
bar,
I'm
talk
like, how
about
many
erratic ass energy. There's half the people are horny, half of them are liquored up, half of them
yeah,
are fucking raging. Like, you're
yeah.
taking that shit on. Like,
And that's
you
what I
need to
tell
be like
people.
a protective
Yes.
clown when
And
you
that's
go to that shit,
Yeah, and that's
like,
why I tell people, I'm like, you need to ground, you need a grounding stone. You do need to be protective of your energy because this is everybody else. So what I'm realizing is that a lot of people think that it's them, and what it is the energy around them that they are absorbing. And for me, that was the same thing. One time I went out and I used to, before my spiritual awakening, I was such an extrovert. Like I was out, I was the life of the party. I wanted to be around people. I loved it. And so once I went on my spiritual journey, I started to realize that I was so sensitive to being around people and I would feel people's emotions. And so I was like, thinking something's wrong with me, like, oh my gosh, I don't like people anymore. What happened? Why don't I like to go out? Why do I feel this way? So again, I had to realize that it was what I was taking in. It wasn't me. So I think a lot of people think they're mentally ill because they're thinking something's wrong with me and not realizing that it's the environment or the stimuli that they're around. So
or their already anxiety gets a lot worse. I noticed that too with people's spiritual awakenings, like
mhm,
where they maybe weren't very social before, they just turn into straight up don't want to leave their house type of people. And it's like, you
yeah,
can still have like,
it's a
it's
life.
there's some simple things you can do to prevent yourself, unless you seriously don't want to leave your house, then okay. But
Yeah.
there's easy things you can do to prevent taking on other people's bullshit. Like, I
Yeah.
would just say, even if you just recite their shit is not my shit,
Yeah.
and you just simple things, because I hate to
Mhm.
see people like
Yeah, I hate when
hate
people feel
life,
like
you
they
know what I
have to
mean?
choose one life or the other. Like when people become spiritual, they're like, "Oh, well, I'm spiritual, so I can't do this," or "I'm spiritual, so I can't." And it's like you are spiritual, but you are here having a human experience. And so have the human experience. Just learn how to protect your energy. Just learn how to not absorb that. But you can't stay in your house for the rest of your life. And we're wired for connection, right? Like our human body is wired to have connections, to have physical touch, to have relationships. That's how we're learning to navigate this world. And so I hate when people are like, oh, I went on my spiritual awakening, I had to isolate. Now, are there times where you need to go in hermit mode? Absolutely. There are times when do need to isolate. I know for me, I need to recharge and I need to shut my mouth and be quiet and not be around people because I talk for a living.
Or
So
you
there's
just say no when you really don't want to do something.
have
Like, if you
boundaries.
don't want
Yeah,
to do something, it's okay to say no. But
it's
if you
okay to
say
say
no to
no.
everything, why?
Right. And so I think some people are like all or nothing. And it's like, no, you, my friend, need to learn boundaries. That's what it is. You don't want
Yep.
to say no. You don't want to speak up. And it's like, no, no, no. We're not going to isolate. We're just going to say, this is what I need. And a lot of people, again, don't know how to ask for what they need because of like trauma. Their voice has been taken away. Just all the things. They're codependent. They didn't learn boundaries. They didn't learn how to speak up. So again, a lot of things can cause them to not know how to do that. And so then when they become spiritual, they still need to learn how to do those things. So
Yep.
it's a journey, man. It's a journey. It's beautiful, but it can be, hard work. It can be hard work when
It
you're learning
is.
about yourself
I mean,
and
to me, healing is the hardest part. Like, you have to start dealing with all of the shit that you didn't know how to deal with or process.
yeah,
Like,
because
that was the
sometimes you
fucking
forget
worst.
about
I spent 39 years not dealing with stuff because I didn't know how. I had been to therapists and I never got any lasting results. I had tried medication, never. I didn't even know I had anxiety till I was in my early 20s. She's like, "That's anxiety and panic." I was like, "Oh, Well, that
Oh,
would
yeah.
be the reason why I would stop. I couldn't breathe and I would like, my heart rate and my lungs
Yep.
would hurt and I would start blacking out. I was fucking in my early 20s before I even knew what it was,
Yeah.
So I was 39 before I started. So if you guys are listening to this and you're like, I don't know, it doesn't really matter. If you've hit some type of a spot in your life and your spiritual awakening hits, it's
Yeah.
okay. You can either shut it off or you can like use your gifts, but
Yeah.
healing is one of the major things that is going to transform your intuitive journey, because if you don't have all the emotional baggage, you're free to have mental freedom to connect to spirit, to connect to your gifts, to your healing gifts. Like,
Yeah.
you can still connect your gifts if you don't do the deep healing, but you're not going to have as good of a connection to
Yeah.
yourself, to others, to spirit, and it's just how do you feel with that? Like, the emotional part. Do you feel kind of relieved that you were able to kind of work through most of your healing? Is a lifetime thing. You're never like
Sure. You're
instantly
never
healed,
healed.
but
Yeah.
how do you
Yeah.
feel with you and your journey on your healing? I mean, do you feel like a lot better? Do you feel
Yeah. I feel much lighter. I feel much
Yeah, it's like
lighter.
the weighted blanket came off. That's how I
Yeah.
describe it. Like, you
Yeah.
take the weighted blanket off.
Yeah, like I didn't realize how much I was carrying because again, my whole life had been like that. And so
Yeah.
I didn't know anything else. I didn't know what it was like to relax. I didn't know what it was like to just be present in the moment. I didn't know what it was like to not have anxiety and to not overthink and not control. But what I realized was that my family, they didn't deal with stuff. They just kept going. And
Yeah.
so all my life I kept going. I was in school, I was working, I was a wife, I had kids. I just was always moving. And what I realized was that anytime that I was still, so when I started my healing journey, I started meditating. Every time when I first started, I was crying. Every time I sat still for maybe 15 to 20 minutes, I was crying. And so what I realized, I kept moving my whole life because I didn't want to feel.
Yeah.
I started to be still and be quiet, whether I was meditating or whether I was just having a self-care day, I was boo-hooing. And I'm like, how come every time I be still, every time I'm not doing nothing, I'm crying? Well, that was because there was years, because I was in my 30s when I hit my awakening. And so that was years of things that I was repressing, of feelings that I was not releasing, of people that I was not confronting, of the times that I was not saying no when I wanted to. That is what all was coming out.
Yep.
30 years of that. And so once I started to say, okay, well, every time I feel like I need to cry, I'm just gonna cry. Because what I would do was try to like press it down or wipe my face or be like, no, we're not doing that right now. You don't got time for that. So when the pandemic hit, Spirit was like, oh, you got more than enough time because the world is shut down. So I feel like when the pandemic happened, it was like, oh, you thought you didn't
It
have
was
time.
forced alone time.
Now you got all the time in the world because guess what? You can't go nowhere. Okay. And so literally I tell people the whole 2020, all I did was cry. I traveled and I cried. I could travel when I could, but I literally traveled and I cried. And I was so grateful for that because I was like, I'm gonna do this now because I don't know if I'll ever get this much time in my house alone with my kids again. And so I took full advantage. Like I worked from home. We had like 2 meetings a week. Other than that, you didn't really have any work to do. I was a social worker. I went into people's homes and helped them with their babies and to be a mom. And so we couldn't go in people's homes. We couldn't see people. So I was like driving around, dropping diapers off on people's porches and like waving, saying, hey, how are you and the kids? And then that was it. So I didn't have time to do anything. So I would sit at home and be like, all right, I'm feeling it. It's coming. All right, here it comes. And I would just cry. I would cry and then I would journal about what was coming up for me, And then a lot of times I was like, I'm crying for the little girl inside who didn't get to cry because it was like, stop crying. Ain't nothing wrong with you. Did it, those things are like, we got to go. We don't got time for that or quit asking questions. So I really allowed myself to really feel. And I realized like I am a soft feeler. I'm a person, like I'm a soft person. For all my life, I used to be like, I ain't emotional. Like I'm an Aries. We don't do that crying shit. Like we don't be on that. We don't got time for feelings. Now I'm like, oh, look at the birds. Like now I cry over anything. But again, it has allowed me to really be a part of this human experience. Like I can be a human. We were given emotions to feel, right? And not just the good ones, right? We were given sadness and anger and resentment. I need to feel those too. And so now anytime I'm feeling a feeling, I ask myself, well, why? Where do you think that's coming from? And I deal with that, but I also don't try to say, okay, well, you need to be over it by now. It's time. No, my body needs to feel that. And maybe it's not me, the 34-year-old Brandy. Maybe it's something from when I was 9 that I didn't get to feel and it's coming up now. But I have to allow myself the time to do that. And so the more that I've been doing that now, I have more peace in my life. And
Yeah.
I don't have shoulder and back pain. Like I used to have really bad shoulder and back pain. And when I started doing yoga and like healing my body and my mind, I realized that like it was like spiritual shit I was holding on to.
Yeah.
I used to
Carrying the
always
burdens of the world, basically.
carrying stuff on your back. Yeah. And then I used to always have, like, all my life, I had recurrent UTIs all the time. My back would hurt, my kidneys, I would always have UTIs. And I got this book called Healing the Body. And like you can open it and go to a certain ailment and it'll tell you where that comes from. And so I went and I was like, kidneys, like why am I always having UTIs? And it said like anger toward a parent. And so again, when I start healing my inner child and dealing with the trauma from me being a kid, I don't have the back pain anymore. I haven't had a UTI in I don't know how long. So again, it's all connected. The body, the mind, the spiritual, it's all connected. Some of our physical ailments are from, emotions that are repressed. You know what I mean? Some
Mhm.
mental illness is due to your spiritual gifts. Some of the things you eat can trigger, mental health issues. So we have to get the mind, body, and soul aligned. And that is literally why my business is called Heal You, Whole You. Because as a therapist, we only address the mental piece and the brain, right? But we
Or the
need to,
doctor just gives you a pill, or you know what I
yeah,
mean? Like they never get to the root of anything.
everybody does one thing. And I'm like, okay, I do the one thing, but I also need to ask you, what are you eating? What are your sleeping habits? What happened to you at this age when this disease started to happen, or when you started, you know what I mean? Like we have to ask everything. Who are the
Yep.
people around you? Who were you raised by? You know what I mean? What type of environment? Did you hear, gunshots every night? Or, were there horses in your backyard? Like we need to know everything. And that is why I'm so adamant about healing the whole you. We
Yeah.
cannot just address one piece. I need to know where you are spiritually, where you are mentally, what's going on in your physical body. Do you move your body? Do you drink water? Are you eating Takis and Cheetos every day and having a Snickers and guzzling down with the Mountain Dew? That makes a difference. So again, when we do start to heal, it allows you time to enjoy life and enjoy things. And even when bad things do happen, because they will, you're better equipped to handle them.
Yeah.
Because now
Now I
when
have
stuff
a
happens,
day where the usually it's the day where whatever happens, I'm like, fuck it all. I'm going to burn everything down. And then the
yeah,
next day is my rational day. Okay, spirit, what can we do? What are my options? Why
yeah,
is this happening? Do I
yes,
play a part in it?
yeah,
Did I make it this situation worse? Were they attacking? Like I have a rational approach to
yes,
that it doesn't linger. So then that bad thing doesn't turn into another bad thing, turn into another bad thing. Like,
right.
I'm like,
You're
okay,
ready to
so what do
flip.
we do about it? But
Yeah,
give myself that permission, that kind of that first day to just have at
yeah,
it and whatever, have the emotion of it. And then the next day is like, okay, what do we do
yeah.
about it? Instead of like the world, before I was just always half glass empty because it was always half glass empty.
'Cause it was always something.
Everything, like
Yep,
I never got ahead. We just lived day to day and
yep,
whatever. And now it's like, okay, I don't have to live that way.
yep,
I had to change my kids and my husband. It was a process. Like
for
even my
sure.
kids at that young of an age, I remember my daughter saying one time, she's like, we're too poor to do that. And I'm like, okay, we're going to stop that. We're not poor and we're not broke. We
Yep,
have what we need. And if there's things that we want, we need to
yep,
figure out how to do that. We are not broke and we're not poor. We have a home, we have food, we have
yep,
what we need. So like I even had to, it really shocked, like sparked me, I think big time when I heard my daughter say it, because she was probably like 12 at the time or 13. And I was like,
yeah,
holy fuck, like, is that really what we're like, is that really how we're talking? So,
yeah.
um,
It changes you as a parent too. And again, me working in the maternal child health world, like I was working with moms and even doing private practice therapy. A lot of my clients are moms, and then even working at the school with the kids, I have to talk to the parents, and so healing for me even changed the way that I parent. I am a totally different parent than I was before my awakening because I realized that like that's a soul assignment, right? Like I am assigned to these little souls, you know what I mean? Like I have to help them nurture their gifts because mine weren't nurtured. I didn't know what they were. My mom and dad didn't know what they were. And so because I am aware, it's my job to nurture my kids and not to shut them up, not to make them lose their voice. I let my kids ask why. I let my kids talk back. They're not disrespectful, but if they have something to say, I give them permission to say it, and I answer whatever questions they have. Also, like you said, we change our words. We're not going to speak negative things because I tell them our words are energy. You know what I mean? So be mindful of the way you speak. Don't say that we're broke. Don't, I used to say my kids were my broke best friends, and then I had to change that. They're not my broke best friends because they're not broke. You know what I mean? I call them my rich besties now, right? Like, and so again, I change the way that I talk. I change the way that I parent. I tell them everything. When they see me pulling cards, they ask, "What are
Yep.
these? How do you use them? What do they tell you?" You know what I mean? I tell my kids everything. Again, age appropriate,
Yep.
but I make sure that I explain because I think my anxiety started as a kid because I didn't know stuff. And because I didn't know, I made up stuff. And because I was making up stuff, I was running with whatever I was making up in my mind that may have not been correct. I thought things were my fault that probably weren't. I thought things were happening that might not have been happening. You know
Yep.
what I mean? So there was always this unknown, and the unknown is what gives you anxiety, right? Because
Yep.
you're trying to control an outcome and you're not in control. So you're anxious. And so just really changing again how I parent with my kids because I don't want them to be anxious. I don't want them to be worried. I want them to be in tune with their feelings. When they cry, I don't tell them stop crying. I let them cry and I say, okay, well, we're going to talk about it. Or I might say, use your words. Tell me what you're thinking right now. I understand you're upset. What are you thinking? What's that thought? Because again, our thoughts drive our emotions. If
Yep.
you're crying, it's because of a thought. I can think of something and it make me cry. I can think of something and it make me laugh. I can think of something and make my stomach sick. So I'm teaching my kids that when you have that emotion, well, what's the thought? What are you thinking right now? Oh my God, it's all my fault. I did it. And then when I explain to them, oh, well, that wasn't your fault. That would happen because X, Y, Z. Oh, so we cleared up the emotion just by changing the thought, not by saying, "Oh, shut up, quit crying, go sit over there and go in the corner and cry, and come back when you're done crying." Well, I could stop them from crying by asking them what they're thinking. So again, it's just all connected, and that is what healing does. It
Yep.
makes things make sense for you, and it helps
Yeah.
you navigate life.
And I think that since our kids won't have to shut off like we did, my kids have severe anxiety. One has OCD, one has ODD, and learning to navigate them, like, okay, so my daughter's 18 and I'm just starting to figure her out. Like,
Hmm.
she doesn't really come to me. She doesn't talk to me a lot, but she'll come
Hmm.
to me with random weird things. And she never says thank you. She doesn't appreciate things, but she'll come to me with random weird stuff. And I'm like, I kind of almost, I had to ask my mom in spirit. I was like, why? Because like it's a lot of stuff I don't really, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I don't care about. And
Yeah.
but that's her way of trying to connect with me. I'm like,
Right. Yeah.
where to me it's totally, it's totally. And she's like, I'm trying to ask you to do something with me. I'm like, no, you asked me to take you somewhere and buy you something. That's not spending time with. That's you wanting something. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. Yeah.
learning them and they know how to use their gifts. Like I'm like, I've taught them like, okay, you guys can meditate, you can tap. There's a lot of ways because now
Yeah.
they take medication because they're not in a space where they are ready to be in control of their,
Yeah. For sure.
mind and body and those things. And I
Yeah.
said, I prefer that you guys get off this medication, but for now, but until you guys take control of either calming your mind, learning ways to calm yourself down, finding routines, those things like, but they know how to use their pendulums. They know that we need to sage. They know how to, if there's a random spirit in the house, they all know. But so
I
like
love
we're just
it.
open about it. I'm like,
Yes.
there'll be like that sometimes they'll be like really afraid. I'm like, you're in control. So if you're going to allow yourself to be scared, then they're going to freak you out. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's having that like energy is a thing, people are a thing, spirits are a thing. You guys are
Yeah.
uber sensitive because I've developed my gifts. You guys
Yeah.
didn't have to shut your gifts down, so just even
Yeah.
teaching our kids that they don't have to like that. To me, our kids are going to have a leg up from what we
They
had,
are.
you
They
know.
are. I love it, and I'm so excited about that, and it makes what I go through or what I've been through worth it because I'm like, well, because I went through this, my kids won't have to. They won't have to shut up. They won't have to follow the status quo. They won't have to be, indoctrinated by these systems. And so, I do love it. I love it because I feel like by me healing myself, I healed my lineage going forward. Like
Mhm.
my grandkids are gonna be like, well, Grandma Brandy was the one that set this all in motion for us. So to me, I'm like, it's hard, it's painful, it's hell. Sometimes I'm like, Spirit, I want out. Why did y'all, you know, because I go through a lot of shit. I have been through so much and it's so painful. But now I just ask myself, okay, what is this here to teach me?
Yep.
I'm going
Spirit
through
always
this
just says,
because what?
you're doing this because you're gonna help somebody else. I'm like, I just need a break. Can I get a
Yeah, like
break?
I've been like, when they gonna help me?
I'm
I'm
44.
arguing with
You
them.
give me constant roll me over the bus roadblocks on a regular basis. How about
Yeah.
my life lessons are done for the rest of my
I
life?
know. I'll be right back.
I've got enough stored up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
There's
so
go ahead.
tell me, what do you have going on? Where can people find you? And what do you want to leave people with?
Yay! So, what I have going on now, my newest thing is my spiritual coaching. It's the Heal You, Whole You coaching program. And I'm so excited about it. And so basically what it is you don't have to come to me for just therapy, right? We're talking about everything. So we are going to do inner child healing. We're doing shadow work. We will process trauma. We will do EMDR if that's what you need. But we're learning how to be a parent, how to nurture your kids' gifts. If you're pregnant and you're wanting healing for your womb, if you're trying to conceive and again you've had back-to-back miscarriages or you just can't seem to get pregnant or you know you're pregnant and you want a healthy pregnancy, you want to learn about home birth and the spiritual, you know, the spiritual work of being pregnant. It's like a coaching program that's catered to you and whatever you need, but we're tapping into the physical, the mental, and the spiritual. And so you get weekly coaching calls with me. We're going to meditate. We might do some sound bowl, just whatever you're needing. You're going to have assignments, journal prompts. And I'm starting a group. I have a Facebook group called the Healing Soul Tribe where we talk about all the spiritual stuff in there. I go live and read cards for people. And so I'm really just trying to find a healing community. I'm trying to bring all the healers together, all the people that are spiritual or wanting to know about their gifts or just saying, I see angel numbers. What does that mean? I'm really just trying to bring all the like minded people together because I feel like everybody has their own unique gift and everybody is a puzzle piece to the whole, right?
Yep.
So that is my newest thing that I'm working on. I'm trying to do like courses too where people can like buy the course so they don't have to sit and talk to me or listen to me talk. They can just watch it at their own time. But that is the newest thing. Other than that, I'm still a therapist, so I'm still, you know, just taking therapy clients. But the spiritual coaching allows me to do more of what I want to do and not so much followed by the book of like therapy and liability and insurance and all that stuff. So that's my newest thing. My website is healyouwholeyou.com. So HEALYOUWHOLEYOU.com. That's my Instagram. That's my Facebook. My personal Instagram is divine underscore empress underscore B. That's like just me being a mom, me being funny, me doing yoga. I do like TikTok therapies where I give like a little therapy session in 3 minutes. So you can follow me on those pages. I'm on TikTok too, Divine Empress B. So you can find me at all those. Subscribe to my website. I have a podcast. I blog. So just all the things, just connect with me somehow. I love to talk, obviously. I love people. And so, yeah, connect with me on any of those platforms.
Awesome. So what is something that you would like to leave people with? Like whatever, inspiration, what to look for, whatever the hell it is.
Let me think. I just want people to know that like they are enough and they are worthy just as they are. That right now, today, whatever today is, May 11th, and whatever time it is, like if you didn't do another thing, if you didn't change another thing, if you didn't read another book, if you didn't look at another, like you are enough. You are exactly who you are and who you need to be and where you need to be right at this time. Everything is divine. I think that we are all searching for our best self or our higher self, or I need to do this. Like we will think of something negative or something to fix so fast. But what if you just sat in this moment and just accepted who you were and where you were right now and knew that that was enough?
I love that. I've been saying lately a lot of uh you're never going to hit that level of perfectionism because you don't even know what you're striving for. You just know you're never going to reach it, so you're always trying to do more things. You
Yeah.
just got to stop because you're just like you said, you're already perfect. You're perfect exactly as you are. If you do
Yeah.
nothing less more the rest of your life, it's fucking perfect. So
Mm.
break down these perfect constructs and just fucking let them go because you're already fucking perfect and you already show up to the world,
Yes,
like
you are.
if you
Yeah.
break down all of that shit, then you just are just in a better place. So thank you so much. I'm really excited.
Thanks
Everybody will be
for
able
having
to,
me.
yeah, see your links. I will tag you on Instagram and all the good places. But otherwise, I hope everybody has a great week. If you're an intuitive medium, lightworker, healer, starseed, whatever you call yourself, and you're ready for massive and rapid expansion in your connection to spirit, realms, timelines, and your intuitive healing gifts, then Accelerated Intuitive is for you. Have you spent years trying to enhance your gifts and you still feel held back, or that your connection to spirit and your gifts could be so much faster, easier, and stronger? Through the Accelerated Intuitive program, we use DNA activations, accessing, processing, and reactivation, and clearing soul cords and blocks from this and past lives. Light language, expansion of your spirit team, and intuitive connection to expand and unleash your hidden and intuitive healing superpowers. One of the current students says she has been working on her gifts for years, and she cannot believe how much progress she has made in such a short amount of time. Her Reiki and intuitive gifts have been exploding. If you're ready for these results, if you're ready to shed all the bullshit and the trauma, that whatever it is that is holding you back from connecting to spirit easier, faster, stronger, then Accelerated Intuitive might be for you. Please do not hesitate to reach out if you have questions about this program.